There have been leaks and spy shots of both a new engine and a bagger motorcycle from Indian for a couple of months now, but this week they've made it official. The new PowerPlus motor is here and it will be put to use in the imminent Indian Challenger, which will be fully unveiled next week. So here's everything we know so far about the new PowerPlus engine. The PowerPlus will sit alongside the updated Thunderstroke 116, which was announced a few weeks back. That motor will come as standard across a good share of the Indian lineup, including the Springfield Dark Horse, Chieftain, Chieftain Dark Horse, Chieftain Limited, Chieftain Elite, Roadmaster and Roadmaster Dark Horse. I made a full video on that update, which I've linked to in the description in case you haven't seen it already. But despite the refresh of the Thunderstroke and the fact that it has more displacement with 116 cubic inches to the PowerPlus's 108, the PowerPlus will still become Indian's most powerful engine they've ever produced. It'll deliver 121 horsepower at 5,500 RPM, redlining at 6,500 revs, and its peak torque of 131 foot-pounds or 178 newton-meters is produced at 3,800 RPM. For reference, the Thunderstroke produces 126 foot-pounds, so that's 5 less, at a lower 2,900 RPM. No power figures were provided at its launch, but from the torque numbers we can see that the PowerPlus will be a higher revving motor, which goes some way to explain how they've gotten more performance out of it despite a smaller capacity. The design was rumoured to be heavily influenced by a motor destined for use by the Victory brand before the owners Polaris wound the company down in 2017 owing to limited market share and therefore profitability. There are some visual similarities with the Victory Freedom 106, but Indian actually say that they've drawn inspiration from the 113cc V-twin of their Scout line of bikes. The PowerPlus has the same overhead camshaft design, utilising 4 valves per cylinder, as opposed to the more traditional 2-valve pushrod system used on the Thunderstroke. The PowerPlus is also liquid-cooled like the Scout motor, which should provide more efficient cooling than the air-cooled Thunderstroke, allowing Indian to push the PowerPlus harder and rev it higher. Of course, liquid cooling requires a radiator, so it'll be interesting to see how that looks on the Challenger when it's revealed, especially given that Indian's current touring lineup is entirely air-cooled and therefore has a more old-school aesthetic. The 60-degree V-twin of the PowerPlus is of course much larger in capacity than the Scout motor and also has an all-new powertrain with 6-speed transmission and an assist clutch. Assist clutches are becoming increasingly common on new bikes and use the torque of the motor to pull the clutch pack together when it's engaged, meaning that lighter springs can be used, which translates to a lighter feel at the lever. I'm not a complete expert on the history of the Indian range, but a bit of Googling has me thinking that this is the first time an assist clutch has been used on one of the big Indians. The only other bike that they've produced with one that I could find is relatively recent, the FTR 1200. But let me know in the comments below if you know otherwise. In addition, 3 rider modes will be available in order to tailor throttle mapping to the riding conditions. There's no confirmation of what they'll be, but it's safe to assume that one will be sporty, one will be touring focused, and one will be for rain, which might come in handy on a big bike with such a large amount of torque on tap, especially if you live in a less than ideal climate like myself. Indian also mentioned internal technology in their press release, such as hydraulic valve lash adjusters and hydraulic camshaft chain tensioners, which they claim will improve reliability and ease of maintenance. So all in all, despite the PowerPlus name being taken from a motor that Indian produced between 1916 and 1924, this looks like a pretty modern take on the big displacement American V-twin format. It'll be interesting to see how this lands with Indian's customers who might prefer the traditional pushrod format over the likes of liquid cooling and electronic rider modes. That said, the Scout, which also carries many of these modern attributes, appears to have been a sales success. Certainly in the UK, it's been their best-selling bike this year, although that could be down to its entry-level price point rather than a technological appeal. It's also interesting to see Indian launch the motor first, then the bike a week later. They're not the first manufacturer to take this approach this year. BMW commissioned 3 custom builds around their 1.8-litre Boxer twin motor, with the full R18 Cruiser to be launched at EICMA in a couple of weeks' time. Perhaps this is a way for manufacturers to showcase the advancements in their new engines before the specs get lost in the rest of the bike, especially given that there are typically a whole raft of electronics on modern Tourers now, which can dominate the press release and spec sheets. I'm looking forward to finding out more about the Challenger when it's launched next week. We've had a couple of teasers on social media, and it was also in the background of a promo photo for the new Indian Scout, released possibly by accident in the Canadian press pack. It looks set to go head-to-head with Harley's Road Glide Special, and from what we can see in the photos, it'll have a substantial fairing with distinctive LED headlights and two-tone cut alloy wheels. It also looks like Indian have tried to modernise the handling of the bike with what looks like a relatively steep rake for a cruiser, upside-down forks and radially mounted Brembo brakes. The shape of the tank has echoes of the Scout, and the bars look swept way back for long-distance comfort. What do you guys think? Will this modernisation pay off for Indian? Can it compete with the Road Glide Special? Or should they just focus on the style of bikes that has done well with their existing customer base for a while now? Let me know what you think in the comments. I'll cover this bike in full when all the details are announced, and I'll try to get some decent first-hand footage at EICMA in a couple of weeks' time. So if you're new here and you want to see those videos, hit subscribe and I'll see you then.